On this segment of Boost Your Business, we're going to try to stump our expert. This is where we invite a field expert into our boardroom to answer our viewers' most commonly asked questions based on the topic of the day. Now, without further ado, let's welcome today's guest, disability access expert, Janet Hansen. Hello, Janet.
Thanks for having me, Mary.
Glad to have you, Janet. Are you ready to play Stump Our Expert?
I'll do my best.
All right, then. Today's topic is parking. Accessible parking, that is, not valet. Question 1. In a parking lot, how far should the accessible parking be from the accessible entrance?
The distance from the accessible parking area should be on the closest accessible route to an accessible entrance. The shorter the distance, the easier it is for people with heart and lung conditions or other mobility disabilities to enter your business. In places with multiple entrances, like a shopping center, for example, accessible parking should be spread out and located on accessible routes that are closest to the accessible entrances.
Correct. Question 2. What does a typical accessible space look like?
There are actually two types of accessible spaces, auto accessible and van accessible. The parking area for both is 9 feet wide and 18 feet deep. Where they differ is in the size of the access aisle next to the parking area. For an auto accessible space, the access aisle must be 18 feet long and 5 feet wide. For a van accessible space, the access aisle must be 18 feet long and 8 feet wide. These spaces and access aisles must be level for the entire area of the parking space and access aisle.
That's absolutely right. Now, question 3. What symbols, signs, and words do I need for my accessible spaces?
The words "no parking" must be painted in letters at least 12 inches high on the ground in the access aisle. For the symbols, what you see most often is a 36-inch by 36-inch outlined profile view of a wheelchair user in white on a blue background. This symbol is widely known as the International Symbol of Accessibility. This is painted at the end of the space so it can be seen by traffic enforcement when a vehicle is in the space.
Janet, what about the signs I notice in every parking lot?
Oh, good question, and good eye, Mary. For the signs required, first you need an International Symbol of Accessibility sign at each space. Under that, you will need a warning for people who shouldn't park there that says minimum fine $250. Last, you must have a van accessible sign if your space is a van accessible space. And don't forget to add tow-away signs with the tow company's telephone number at each entrance to the parking area, or put it next to each of the accessible spaces. Mary, our viewers must make sure they get the right size and wording for those tow-away signs. There are some people trying to make a profit by selling signs with the wrong wording.
Well, right again. And here's question 4. Can the parking spaces be arranged in any order or placed in any location?
No. You must take great care in the arrangement of accessible parking spaces. Think about this. The person parking in the accessible space must not be forced to go behind someone else's vehicle to get to the business entrance.
Janet, I get it. You don't want somebody, say, who uses a wheelchair going behind a car when the driver's completely not paying attention while backing out of a space.
Got that right, Mary. That also means that if your parking spaces are up next to the sidewalk, you're going to need a wheel stop or a curb to make sure there's enough room on the sidewalk for people to pass by.
You're on a roll. Next question, question 5. How many spaces are required to be accessible?
Oh, great question, Mary. I actually brought a slide for your viewers to follow. Every parking lot should have at least one van accessible space. After that, just add one accessible space for each 25 regular spaces up to 100 spaces. Follow the table to get the right combination of van or auto accessible spaces. Remember, Mary, that these codes can change, so be sure to check the most recent requirements before you lay down those stripes.
Got another one, and let's see if we can keep that streak going. Question 6. What are some other requirements for van accessible spaces?
Mary, there is one more thing our viewers should know. Remember, parking access aisles are part of the path of travel into a business. They are needed not only to allow a person to exit a vehicle, but also to get in the front door. If someone is watching this and thinking, oh, I need to add a couple more accessible spaces, my advice to you is to make sure those new accessible spaces allow your customer to travel from the access aisle all the way to your front door.
With monotonous regularity, Janet, you are right again. Great information you provided today. Sorry we couldn't stump you, but thank you for being with us today on Boost Your Business.
If you have further questions on accessibility, email Disability Access Services at dasinfo@dor.ca.gov or call 916-558-5755.